Hello everyone, welcome to the next video in the series in which we are making Notes app. And in this video we will integrate Rome in our project. Rome is a library which is a wrapper on SQLite to integrate local persistent storage, local DB in our app. So before that, before proceeding with Rome, I just want to provide the context of what we are doing in this Notes app series. Is that we are making a Notes app with a beginner approach. That how as a beginner developer we are making an project, and also improving that project with the passage of time. With the after implementing some features, we will improve the quality of code, structure of the project to make it in a scalable form. So this is which is needed on enterprise level apps, that the project should be scalable in such a way that the modification won't be take too many effect on other part of the app. So this is the whole summarized context of this series. So let's proceed with the room. So in our current so at this stage in our repository, we are using in memory ArrayList. So we are using ArrayList to maintain our nodes listing. So now we will migrate towards Rome integration. So first of all, we will integrate the Rome library. I'm not skipping these steps because in most of the time when integrating any SDK in our project, which causes some upgradation issues, like some things needs to be upgraded to integrate that thing. So that's why I'm going to these complete process. So here this is the Rome version, and these two first there are different options in this Rome library. So we will pick those options one by one which is needed for our project. So first of all, this implementation and annotation processing, Rome compiler, these thing will be added in our build.gradle file. And next is we have two options, capped Kotlin annotation processing and KSP. These days as KSP is the latest one, so we will use this one. There is some difference here as we are using Kotlin DSL. So we will shift to this Kotlin one, and actually there is some of the difference of defining things. So let's copy this again and paste it in here, and KSP one, and we need use these Kotlin extensions and coroutine support. So we will add this one with the comments, so it will be help us to understand what is the purpose of this option or this library part. And yeah, that's it. So at this point the KSP is not resolved, so for that we need to set up KSP. So for that we need to define this KSP version in our project level Gradle file, and this one at our app level file. And yeah, that's it. So let's sync the project. Okay, so we got some error here, so let's understand this one. Listener notification exception. Okay, so that's a new one. I haven't faced that before. Let's do it in this way, that KSP is defined correctly. Here KSP is defined, so it could be due to the vision of this one, as this test is not this log is not very self-explanatory to understand that what could be the issue. So the issue, possible issue would be regarding this version of that we are using in here. So let's press Alt Enter and change it to the updated one and sync it again. Okay, so our project have been synced successfully. Then the next thing regarding the ROM is that as a ROM has three primary major components: database class, data entity, and DAO. And so first we will start with the data entity, which is a database class which we can define in database which represents a database table. So we can define in this way. So for that, in our project we will create another package here, data, and in here another package, local, and in that we will create node entity, which would be a data class which contains so this is the way to define this, that and use the annotation entity. And in our node model which we have already created, is we have three options here: ID, title, and description. So we will use these one, ID, which would be nullable and which is primary key, and auto generation would be true, and the second is title. Make sure these fields should be nullable. So yeah, we have made the title, and the next is a DAO. DAO is a data access object which allows different kind of methods to perform on that table. So for that we need to make a DAO interface class. For our case, we will create named as node DAO, which would be an interface. Where is interface? Yes, interface, and annotate with it DAO, and this will contains different operations. So let's say in our nodes table we want to get all the nodes, insert a new node, update a node, delete any node. So these are the options. So first let's get all nodes. We will return a list of node entity, and in here we use query annotation and select strike from node entity. So here node entity is not seems to be very feasible name for the table. So in our node entity class, here we will specify the name as table name nodes, come to node DAO and use nodes here. So we are getting all the nodes. Next is insert a node, insert item, and in return we will get the item ID, and for that we have the annotation insert. And the next is actually we also need to pass the node entity, and the next is update update item, which also need node entity as parameter. Update, and the next one is delete node. So for that we will use delete item, pass the node entity and use delete annotation. So these are the possible operations that we need to perform on the table. And the next is the database class. The database class is the class which contains the DAO's implementation, as well as the number of tables which we are presenting in that table, and the version of that migration version or current version of the database. So these are the information that is presented by the or managed by the database class. So this is the way we need to create an abstract class. So in our project we will create a class app database, which would be an abstract class, annotate it with database and extend from room database. And what's next? Yes, we need to tell the entities node entity class, and the version, current version is 1. And the next is we also provide the abstract function which return the possible DAOs which we are using with that database. So abstract function nodes DAO, let's rename it to shift F6 and nodes DAO. Is the inner one is renamed? Yes, that one is renamed. So nodes DAO. And the next is we need to create the instance of this app database by this way, and use the DAO instance to perform the further operations. So for that, as this room database is uh, an expensive instance, and we only need single instance throughout our project. So for that we will implement the singleton here, create a function named as get instance, and which will return the app database. So in here, let's say we will create a variable private var instance, which would be null. So if instance is null, then we want to create the instance. We need application context here. So let's first type it here, and we will find a way to use it in here. And next is app database and name of the database, which is app database, and call the build method, and we got the instance. And now at the end we will return the instance, and as it's showing that it is a nullable variable, so we will use this here, as we are not NP lover, null point NPE lover, null point exception, but at this stage we know that the instance won't be null because it's already has been assigned here. So and the next thing is we need to figure out that how we can get the application context. So for that we will create a class here, nodes app, which will be extend from application, and in here we will have companion object, and in this press Ctrl O, and in onCreate method we will set this context to application context to this app context, and now we will use this nodes app dot app context. So we will use context in this way, and we also need to tell the project that this is our modified application class that should be triggered when the app launches. So for that we need to go to our manifest file, and in here define the nodes app, and so yeah, this is it regarding the app database. Now the next step is we need to update our repository and call these require methods from from our repository. So in our repository we need the instance of our DAO, which is Nodes DAO. So now here we will use app database get instance dot Nodes DAO. We have our DAO object here. So as we were using an array list here, so we will remove this array list and pass our data to the database table through DAO. So after removing that, let's call in here that DAO.get all, and this is returning the list of node entity, but our get all methods required to return the node model. So for that we need to write a mapper, and so for that, in our node entity we will create a extension function here, just like this, node entity dot to node model. Let's say name it as to model, and which will return node model id would be this dot id, and as this is nullable, so if it is null then we will pass the -1, and title would be this dot title, and if it is null then set empty string, and description this dot description. So yeah, this is it. So in this extension function we are getting the values from our node entity object, which we are currently calling on. So in here we will map our list to model, and yeah, that so in this way we are mapping our list of node entity to our node model. And next is get a specific node. So I think we haven't made any DAO get node. Yes, we haven't defined method for that in our DAO. In here we will create a method here and get item, which take id and return the node entity. In here we will write query select from nodes where id is equal to our provided id, and limit should be 1 because we only want to get the one node only, which id which we are passing to this query. And in here we will call get item and pass the id, and again this is a node entity, so then we need to map it to our node model to model. And the next is insertion process, and in our insertion in the list we are doing this in this way that but to get the id, but in here when we call the method insert item, then it will return the new id. But as you can see here that we have node model, and our insert item need the entity node entity. So for that we need to make another mapper from node model to node entity. So for that we go to our node model, and in here we will make an extension function for not model to entity which return not entity id would be this dot id. Actually we cannot it also work if we won't use this. So title and description is this one. And now back to our nodes repository, and in here we just write to entity method, and this model will be converted to not entity, and our insertion will be done in our table using DAO, and we get the new id in return. But in the next phase, as we are seeing that we need integer value, integer id. So for that we will write it here to int, and yeah, that's it. And so let's remove this line from here, and next is update item. So for that what we will do is DAO.update item dot to entity. And no need to do any other things, just remove it. And the last part is the deletion of the item. So this is not needed, and we use DAO dot delete item, and here this delete method taking id as a input parameter, so we need to modify our delete item to get the id, and update the query here, delete from nodes where id is equal to id, and pass the id here, and this is it. So our repository has been completely implemented all the available methods which should we implement, which should we call to store or read or delete data from our table. So yeah, this is it. So let's run the app and see effect that how it is working. So here we have an error that some information is corrupted. We may need to re-download the dependency and sync the project. So in here we are seeing the warning that KSP is too new to Kotlin 1.9.0, and we need to upgrade to 2.0.20. So let's say if we want follow this suggestion, let's copy this one for reference. Okay, this is the suggestion that we have, and let's run the app again. That is it working, or should we need to do any changes? Actually we do need to do any few changes regarding the vision, and because we are saying the same error again, as this isn't referring to that we need to upgrade. Actually yeah, this is also mentioning that we need to upgrade the Kotlin Gradle plugin. So for that we will go to our project level Gradle file, and in here we will upgrade this by alt enter and to 2.0.20. So at the time which you are seeing this video, if alt enter and upgrading to the latest one, which is the latest at your time at which you are seeing the video, if it is not syncing or working correctly, then you can manually type this vision in the Gradle file. So let's sync it again. Okay, so now run the app and test it. As now during the build we have got some warning here, but let's see if it's the project will be able to run with this warning. So the daemon has terminated and started our code. So we are getting some error regarding the Kotlin compiler, and if we read these error logs, then on Kotlin 2.0 and above there is a Compose Kotlin compatibility issue with our current version of Compose. So we need to follow the guideline of provided on this link. And what we need to do is we need to go to our actually at this point we need to use the Compose Kotlin in our project. For Kotlin Visual 2.0 and above, we need to use Compose compiler Gradle plugin to enable Compose. So we will go to this link and set up this information that Kotlin Visuals is 2.0.0, and we need to use this Compose compiler in our project level Gradle file. Just like as we are not using this vision catalog, so we will go with this approach. And here will be the vision of the Kotlin. So we will paste it in here and use the same vision which we have used for Kotlin, which is 2.0.20, and next thing which we need to do is what another thing, we also need to define the alias in our app level project file. So we will copy this from here, go to our project level Gradle file and paste it in here, just like this, plugin ID, and yeah, that's it. So let's sync it and run it again. At this point they are using the alias. Where is the one? Yeah, this is the alias, but we are directly using this string, so we can proceed with the ID. So just want to mention here that I have already gone through these steps multiple times, so I am just covering these steps in the video that it will be helpful to understand that what step did we need to take whenever we are getting this kind of visioning issue with the ROM. Okay, so our visioning issue has been resolved and our app is up and running, but again we got another error. So what is this? At this time So we're saying invocation target exception. If we go scroll down further and see that illegal state exception, that cannot access database on main thread. So by default, the instance of the bed database which we will create and the queries which we will run should be run on background thread. If we try to run out on main thread, it will cause this exception, and the reason is that if we try to run a long running operation on as this DB is a IO operation which we are getting information from our internal storage which is stored in our database. So it's a time consuming task. If we try to run it on our main thread, then it will halt our UI. So to mitigate that, this database class will give us this exception. So this exception is at home view model, and in home view model we have calling the get all methods, and get all method is called on main thread. So we need to call this on background thread. So for that, scope dot launch dispatcher dot io, and now we will run it again. So after running it again, we get another method, and what is this? At this time, reading a state that was created after the snapshot was taken has been applied. So let's come on this one, and we are facing the issue in here. So this could be possible that the node list, let's so this could be the issue that there with this list updating. So let's put a delay of 500 millisecond and run it again. Hopefully this actually I have faced this issue first time in this app. Okay, so let's run it again. We have add the delay, so let's run it again. Okay, so our nodes have been successfully loading, and we are seeing all of our saved node. And the next thing is we need to test the CRUD of our this node set. Let's create a node, update an existing node, and delete a node. So let's first create a node, my new node, and this is a description, I would say, back, and we are getting this error again. So this is the so first let's understand this, that we are getting a unique constraint error. So let's uninstall the app. Actually I need to understand this with blank project. So let's uninstall it and run it again. Okay, so as we haven't any node yet in our fresh app, so it's showing empty, and let's create a node. This is my node, so test description, and by pressing back button, that node will be saved. And if I try to update that node, then I will actually, this one is not working at this point, that tapping on this, it's not showing the detail on the next screen. So this is because, what is the logic on our this screen? In our this screen, what we will do is that if id is -1, then insert node in our init block. If node id is -1, then not -1, then we will get the node details. But if we see the logs here by applying the breakpoint, let's run the app, attach the debugger here, and now if we tap on this node and see in the debugger that actually, let's see the logs, as we are printing this in our logs here as well. So in our logs, it's saying -1. If we inspect our database, in our nodes table, we have a record, and the id of that first node is -1. So as we have make this id auto generated, so it will be increment itself, and but it's still it's showing -1 here. This is because when we are saving a new inserting a node, where is it? Yes, here, when the id is -1, then in that case we want to insert the node, and in our insert method here we are converting this node model to our to entity, and in our entity we are setting the id to this entity mode id, but at this point id contains -1. So what will happen is that in database it will store the -1 as a id. So what we need to do is we need to apply a check that if id node is equal to -1, then in that case we want to pass the id, otherwise we want to set this id to null. In that case the new insertion item will be saved with the auto generated id. So let's uninstall the previous one app, uninstall the previous one app, and run it again. And we, in the meantime, we will also inspect our database to get the clear understanding of that is that thing is reflecting correctly in RDB. Okay, so let's first go to our DB and here and click in here, and in here we will add a node here, name it as test node 1. This is my node, and press back button and see the record here. And in here we are seeing the id 1, and if we add another node here, test node 2, and this is a node, pressing back button and second node have been saved. So refresh the db record, and in here it's auto incremented at this time. So and the next thing is we need to update an existing node. So let's tap on this one, and we got an error again. So what's the error at this time? cannot access DB on method. So it's showing the error that we cannot access get method. Where is it? It would be, and let's go to traverse to this one through logs. In our logs, on node repository, in our add node view model, we are calling this in our this method. So it is very difficult to actually it's our responsibility to call all the repository methods on our IO thread. So it will be very difficult for us to let's say if it's a bigger project, so we need to search throughout the project where we are using these repository methods, and we need to call them on IO thread. So the better way to do this change is that we go to our repository methods, and on each method we will write suspend in front of each function, actually just like this, and in here so in this way it will enforce us to so that whenever we are calling in these any of these method, then we need to call them from a suspend function or on a coroutine scope. So then in that case we will get these error highlightation error will be highlighted that suspend function only we call from coroutine or another suspend function. So we will wrap this into our coroutine scope. So let's say private well scope view model scope, and in here dispatchers.io. Okay, and any other error which we are facing here? Actually we are good, so let's run it again and test the node updation option or feature. Okay, so let's tap on this node and update it, its title, and press back button, and that have been updated. And the last option is to test the delete node option, so tap on yes, and it's still crashing. Now what's the issue at this time is that where I cannot again it's showing this error. So let's get the root cause from where it have been called. It have been called from here, and when as we are already using the launch in our coroutine scope, but it's still giving us the error as this launch function says that the default coroutine scope will be default dispatcher will be the default dispatcher, so which is used for CPU intensive tasks, but it's still running this launch in our UI thread. So it is better practice that whenever we are trying to run any coroutine scope, then we should define the scope dispatchers. So in here we will define this dispatcher.io and run it again. So actually initially it seems to be very frustrating that we are taking too much time to complete even the simple features on Notes app, but it is the base of the project or app development that we incrementally improve our features or achieve our features in this way. So if we go through this path one or two times, then it will be very helpful or easy for us for our other projects or our next projects to implement these things in fast way. So let's tap on this one and delete it again, and our note have been successfully deleted. So this is it for today's video, and in this video we have integrate ROM in our project and set up the database and table and complete the CRUD operation. So this is it for today's video. So I hope this would be helpful for you. Let me know in the comments below what are your suggestions. Thank you for watching. Bye.